and stop chewing on stuff, okay? It's okay, they won't hurt you.
That's awesome. Appreciate you.
Yeah, you bet. Have a good one.
Bye.
You too. See ya. Goats with oats. That was so cool. Okay, so I stopped the guy. I had to know. And he probably gets stopped all the time. He had a small herd of goats carrying all his gear. And I asked him how the heck he became interested in that. And he said that, because I've never seen, I see horses all the time on the trail. I've never seen like tame goats. Mountain goats, sure, but he said that he elk hunts. And when you're elk hunting, if you get an elk, if you don't know, they're giant, they're huge. You have to process them out in the forest, wherever you are. He said he used to use horses and they just didn't carry as much, and the last horse he had to put it down because it got sick. So someone recommended to him goats, these packing goats. And most of them he bottle fed, and the babies that you saw, he's still bottle feeding them. And like 3 or 4 of those goats he bottle fed from the time they were little. The other ones he bought. He started out renting them from someone in Wyoming, which we're pretty close to Wyoming right now. And he liked it so much, they were so efficient for his needs, because he sometimes goes into the mountains 10 miles. And that's a long way away from your car when you've shot an elk and you need the meat. And so he started raising his own, and he said he won't even go back to horses now. This is the way he does it. And his 2 little girls were with him, and they were just super comfortable with the goats, and it was just great. It was so cool to see that. I've never seen anything like it. What a great idea. And this is like a natural habitat to them to be out here. I mean, there are wild goats here, deer, elk. You know, it just seems like the perfect environment for them. They were very calm, very tame, and they didn't seem to mind me at all. And I asked him if I could get that footage. I promised I wouldn't film his kids. So I didn't interview him. I didn't want to pester him about that, but he was nice enough to let me get video of his goats. So cool way to start this trip, guys. Somewhere in this pond are frogs. I can hear them. They've shut up because they can hear me right now. And I've filmed them before, not up here, but they are teeny tiny things about the size of a quarter, but they sound like they're ginormous. I would have to sit here for quite a while just to get a good shot of one. And my zoom on this camera isn't really that good. I'd have to really be able to zoom in close. So if you're interested, I have an overnighter from a couple years ago up in the Maples, near Snow Basin, Utah, and I was able to get some good footage of these guys. Anyway, what are we doing up here? We're back in the Uintas, and what's the plan, Utah Steve? Well, let's talk about that, shall we? First of all, look what I'm surrounded by. Does it get better than this? I submit that it does not. So here's our plan. We are backpacking in to Hayden Lake. What you have up here is Ruth Lake, one of the main lakes up here, if not the main lake. And then just over the hill from that is Naomi Lake, where 1 year ago this weekend I camped with my buddy Joe Shanks. And I thought in commemoration of that 1 year mark I would come up here. He wasn't able to make it. And we've also camped in the past up at Hayden Lake a few years back. Last year we went on an expedition from Naomi to Hayden looking for my old Osprey roll pack thing organizer that I left up here, but it was long gone. I never found it. So I just thought, well, why not a solo trip to Hayden Lake, but not the same camping spot that Joe and I camped at previously, not Lake Naomi Lake. Ruth Lake is beautiful and big, but it's also the main destination up here for a lot of these hikers, be they day hikers or backpackers. It can get not really crowded, but loud and more people than I want to be around. So we're gonna go up over the hill from that to Hayden Lake. And look at this. These are my views just strolling along. So beautiful up in here. Now, I only have an overnight up here. Tomorrow is Father's Day, so I need to go pick up my little boys from their moms in the late afternoon and have them spend the night with me for obvious reasons. But this is my sort of Father's Day reward to myself, just to come up here and be in nature and bring you fine folks a video of my favorite place in the entire world. Not this specific spot necessarily, but the Uinta Mountains in northeast Utah. Everyone knows about Zion's and, you know, Moab, Arches. Utah is full of beautiful forest land like this. The Uinta Mountains are home to Kings Peak, the highest peak in Utah, the highest point in Utah, at 13,000 something feet right here. I've tried to summit that before. Unfortunately, there's a video back in my backlog, several of them from the same trip with my son Murphy. We both got a degree of altitude sickness and dehydration. We made it up to the final push, but we didn't end up summiting the actual peak. This time, my pack's not as heavy. I only have the food I need for the night and the morning and lunch. And we are not tent camping, we are hammock camping. So very different. The gear loadout is pretty light and comfortable. If you saw my last trip to Shingle Creek, I really struggled on that one. My gear was too heavy and the trail was too hard for that much gear, and I beat myself up. So this is a more relaxed trip. I don't know what this is, just a pond I guess, but wow. All right, coming up on Ruth Lake. This is it. Not a very far hike, maybe a mile in, but that was my plan. So there you go, leave no trace. Camp away from water and why it matters. Pretty big lake, pretty decent size. Some good brook trout in there I've caught in the past. Our trail goes along the side here over this way. I can see it over there. And then we're gonna go up over this little rocky point. And Hayden Lake is just over that ridge, nestled up against that mountain. Anyway, let's continue. We're gonna hike around Ruth and up to Hayden. Well, we're hovering above Ruth now. She's down there. Naomi is right over this hill here. I've done 2 videos there, one with Joe Shanks last year and one with my son Murphy, which was probably one of the first backpacking trips I ever went on several years ago. In fact, he was in high school at the time, which is quite a while ago, so several years. But yeah, we had a great time. In fact, we camped in this same little spot both times. And I know Murphy has come up here and camped with his friends in that same spot. So Naomi Lake over that way, and then Ruth, just to get our bearings. That is Hayden Peak. I'll put the elevation up here on the screen, but it is, the camera of course does not do it justice. It is a towering giant. And yes, you can get up there. I never will, but you can. Anyway, amazing. There's still snow up there. There's still snow up here on this mountain as well. I've seen some patches here and there. Mostly it's gone. Sometimes in June it's very much still here, but we're in a drought, a pretty serious one. So I'll talk about that a bit more when I get to camp. We're gonna follow this little trail here and kind of cut through it, and at times we may have to cross these rocks. As you can see, there's a lot of that up here because we are getting near the tree line where everything green and beautiful stops growing and we run into those Rocky Mountains. You can see the tree line there, and then just incredible peaks above it, and it's kind of what we're dealing with here. This is where the we start running out of trees and running into mountain. And of course, we will be nestled in amongst the trees. So we're winding up this trail and I need to stop for a water break. My last video I got pretty dehydrated. Don't want that to happen at all. So far so good. A little piece of personal trivia about this trail right here that we're staring down. It kind of zigzags down to Ruth Lake. A few years ago when Joe and I camped up here at Hayden Lake, it was a Sunday afternoon. We were wrapping up camp and I had to be to work at 7:30 that evening, and that is roughly a 2-hour drive from the trailhead. There's still the hike before the trailhead, so you know, if you're going slow, an hour. If you're going quick, you know, 45 minutes, half hour, depends on how fast you're moving. Well, Joe and I, the plan was to leave at 2 p.m. and get back to our cars by 4, drive back home. He lived in Salt Lake at the time, so now he lives clear up in Boise. We ended up being lazy and hanging out. We had so much fun on that outing, we still talk about it, that we lost track of time. And it was 4 p.m. when we left, when we broke camp and started hiking down this trail. And on that trip, I brought way too much gear, had a pretty heavy pack, and we literally had to run back to our cars. So we're hoofing it down this trail. It's like this, it's rocky, it zigzags, it's all downhill of course, and we're going as fast as we can because I have to leave by 5 at the latest from the trailhead, race home, shower, change into my uniform, and get to the hospital by 7:30 to relieve the guy who's currently working, waiting for me to just show up on time. So, and I'm in the middle of nowhere. So we both hoofed it down the trail. And while Joe got way ahead of me. Way ahead of me. I could almost barely see. I remember he had this big floppy hat on and an orange jacket, or an orange shirt, I believe. So I could see him pretty well. Bugs. And I was keeping track of him. Man, he left me in the dust. I don't know what. I don't remember if he had to be somewhere, but man, I was just back here struggling, but moving as fast as I could Not just to keep up with him, but also looking at the time and going, oh crap, I'm gonna be so late. And I don't like being late for anything. I'm not one of those people that just show up when they feel like it. If I say I'm gonna be somewhere at a certain time, I do everything in my power to make sure that happens. As I was hoofing it down this trail, I felt a pop in my left knee, on my kneecap. I felt and I didn't think too much of it. It didn't hurt a lot, and I made it all the way back to the car. Joe and I said our goodbyes, went our separate ways, and I literally did 88 miles an hour going all the way home. I think I took a picture while I was driving, which is stupid, but if I can find it on Facebook, I'll put it in here to show how fast I was driving home. I got home, everything was, I showered. I got home at like 6:45, showered, stuffed some food in my face, threw on my uniform, and was at work right on time. It was amazing. That's not the moral of the story, though. The moral is don't carry a really heavy pack while running down a mountain. It turned out in the next couple of weeks, my knee got really swollen and I could barely walk on it. And I went to a clinic nearby my house, and they did an x-ray, and my kneecap was broken. I have a little sliver. If I can find that picture, I'll throw it up here. There's a little sliver off to the side, my kneecap, that's completely separated. So awesome. I had to wear a leg brace. In fact, then I was on light duty at work for a while. I went to a sports medicine specialist. They looked at the x-rays, they looked at my knee, and they said, you know, there's nothing we can do for that surgically. We can't fix that. It's such a small break, but it is going to flare up once in a while and you're going to have problems with it. So every once in a while, that knee, I can feel it. It starts to ache. That's when I slow down and take my time on these trails. That's why I don't pound miles. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in the journey, not the destination. Well, I am interested in the destination, but the journey's part of it. If I take my time and make a lot of video, the knee, if anything, has slowed me down and made me appreciate what's going on around me. So once in a while it swells up really bad. I have to wear the leg brace, but I haven't had to do that in a couple years. There's a video in my backlog called Car Camping Camp Gimpy or something, because I had to wear the leg brace. Joe and I were car camping up here, and I had to wear that leg brace the entire time we were here. Anyway, so I still have a broken kneecap, and I hike with it all the time, and most of the time it's good. Once in a while, when the weather flares up and it gets humid and a storm's rolling in, my knee aches. I'm one of those guys that's like, there must be a storm coming, my knee's on fire. So, you know, that's how it is for me now. Anyway, that's my story. This is the trail that I broke my kneecap on, trying to chase Joe down and get to work on time. Let's get back on the trail. Hayden Lake isn't very far up here. In all honesty, you could get to Hayden Lake in an hour or less if you're really booking it. That's not really my goal. It's 5:15 right now. I left my car about an hour ago. Of course, I've been filming and that kind of thing, so I go a little slower. And for a stretch down lower, there were so many hikers going out, I had to step off the trail and wait like 10 minutes because they just group after group. So a lot of people are leaving, and that's a good sign. So this isn't a bad hike. It's not incredibly difficult. I don't know if I would give it moderate. I guess moderate after a certain point. Up to Ruth, easy. Even little, that guy with the goats, he had little tiny kids with him and they were doing fine. But up this way, a little more challenging. I'm not saying kids can't do it. It's just more challenging than the way in, so moderate. It's not difficult. And I can't wait to get up there and find a spot. So I'm going to stop story time and we're going to go up those rocks right there. Whoa. Okay, so right in the middle of the screen there is a tent. I can hear people down here. And a dog heard me and started barking up this way. The lake is right there. Well, my plan for this trip, a lot of people camp over there. That's pretty common. That's where Joe and I camped. And I don't want to be anywhere near people, and hopefully they'll be quiet tonight. Can't control that really, but I would like a quiet night up here. And I think what I was thinking before I even came up here was camping at the other end of Hayden Lake, because I haven't seen too many people camp that direction. But I've definitely seen them camp that way, and I already do. So we're going to keep heading down and that direction into the forest. Speaking of a forest, another piece of personal trivia. I'm a huge fan of The Cure, the band, and of diseases, I guess, but I'm talking about the band. What is Utah Steve's all-time favorite Cure song? A Forest. If you haven't heard it, go check it out. Very mysterious and trippy song. I love it, especially live. It's incredible. I've seen them live a few times. A Forest by The Cure. Check that out. So here we are, Hayden Lake, right at the foot of probably Lofty Peak. I'll put the elevation of Hayden Lake on the screen. Yellow tent is straight through there. There's some people way over there. They're being mostly quiet. So there's this spot, but I'm going to explore a little more before I settle on it. The thing about fires, my last trip I had a campfire one of the 2 nights. A small one that I only had briefly to get rid of bugs and for a degree of psychological comfort. There has since that time been put in place a fire ban unless it's in a concrete and steel fire pit installed by the Forest Service. You cannot have campfires up here. So no fires on this trip, which is fine. Sometimes I have campfires and sometimes I don't, so it's not a big deal. Joe and I, when we're together, we have legendary bonfires. So there won't be any of those this summer, unfortunately. Even if Joe joins me. There's those frogs. So this is usually underwater. And we are having a serious drought in Utah. All of the water levels are down. We had a very light winter, which is why all the snow's gone. So unfortunately, that's how it goes. I did not bring fishing gear, in case you're wondering. I have caught a fish here that Joe and I enjoyed on our trip up here. It's a pretty good sized rainbow, and it fed us both. But I didn't bring fishing gear because I would prefer to cook it over a fire, and I'm not having a fire. So it looks like this just goes all the way up there. I don't see any other, frequently used campsites. I was hoping there might be something back in here. The ground is kind of spongy through here, so not too bad. I'm not sinking in the mud. I can hear some water flowing. Beautiful. There's the water I can hear. I do not see a better place to camp unless I want to hike uphill and try to find something up there. Hopefully you can hear me with my wind filter on. It's pretty breezy up here. It feels nice. It's probably 70 degrees Fahrenheit. We're going to utilize this campsite we first came upon and call it home for the night. Welcome to Hayden Lake again.